sounds like a stupid question.
Probably is, because, yeah, go ahead. Skilled managers equals high morale, which equals all that cool stuff that you cannot pay for and you can't punish for. When you close off that feedback channel, you are not going to be able to hear the truth. In the first microseconds, your brain can't tell the difference between physical danger and what we call social danger.
I'm pissed off at you.
Me, specifically?
Well, just because you're my boss and all.
Employees tend to get promoted until they reach their level of incompetence. Go forward and don't suck. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Managing with Mind and Heart podcast. I am one of your hosts, Michael Nash, and with me is...
Hello, everybody. Ethan Nash here. How's everybody doing?
We are together. We've had several separate podcasts. We're here together again, and we have been experimenting the last few podcasts with a new platform that Ethan introduced me to. We are actually on video and audio now, so you can see how amazingly good looking we are, which not everyone knew.
Yep, this is very true. So, if you want to go to our YouTube channel, the Nash Consulting YouTube channel, you can watch these videos. Whatever floats your boat.
Yep. But thanks for joining us. Before we get into today's discussion, also, I wanted to just make sure everybody's aware that we, several times a year, we offer a public offering of our Managing with Mind and Heart Leadership Development Series. This is a series that we've been bringing to organizations for decades, and we most of the time go into the organization and work with the group there, with the managers. But a few times a year, we say, let's bring in whoever wants to be part of this. And we open it up to the public on a Zoom platform so that people can join from all over the place. And it is, sometimes it's 6 days stretched out over a week. Sometimes it's 12 half days. We kind of experiment, but it is a lot of really, really good information. We have had thousands of managers go through this program in the past. Ethan, why don't you just share a couple of the highlights? What are some of the things that a manager or a potential manager is going to pick up from being part of this process?
Yeah, well, lots and lots of stuff. As you said, it's pretty comprehensive, 6 full days or 12 half days. So we're covering everything from, first and foremost, why it's so important to be growing and developing as a human being, especially when you're in a management position, and how to gain some more self-awareness. We work on a lot of EQ, emotional IQ skills, how to grow and develop in your EQ, some specific types of emotional intelligence skills. Just like, let's just talk about how to listen well so people feel heard, how to receive feedback non-defensively so you can keep that channel of communication open, how to give feedback in a way that's clear and concise, but maintains the relationship with the other person and actually works to lower their defenses. So skills like that, but also just how do we work on maybe cutting down negativity, gossip in the workplace? What are some strategies there for managers and teams? But we also get into, hey, how do I deal with different employee concerns that they bring to me? Or how do I run great one-on-one meetings? And what am I trying to do with those that are for, not only the employee's benefit, but the benefit of the entire group? How do I just run effective, dare I say, even enjoyable team meetings? How to help solve and work autonomy into people's jobs, how to sustain change. And, those are just a few of them. So a lot of practical stuff.
Lots of good stuff. Yeah. Bottom line is, we want to build morale. We want to maintain morale. And this is just going to give you so many tools and skills for that. Now, we have a special offer for our podcast listeners. We have a code for you to plug in when you go to the website, and you're going to get not 11% off and not 19% off and not even 23% off, but you're going to get 24% off.
24. You heard that correctly. 24%, not 25. That'd be a little too much, a little too far.
That's ridiculous.
Come on. We're still a business here. 24% off. So yeah, again, go to our website, nashconsulting.com. You'll see a place to register for the next available workshop series here. And I'll give you a code here in a minute to use at checkout to give you that 24% off. So at checkout, use the code Mind and Heart Pod. Once again, that is Mind and Heart Pod, all one word. And yeah, I hope to see you there.
So, one of the things that Ethan you just mentioned as one of the topics in our Managing with Mind and Heart series is self-awareness, and we have had a lot of podcasts that have touched on self-awareness in many ways. We've talked about, for example, we've talked about Johari's window, right? We've talked the idea that there's these 4 parts of ourselves. I'll just really briefly go through those. There's things about me, Mike Nash, that I know and you know. There's things about Mike Nash that I know and you don't know. So these are the private things. There's things about Mike Nash that I don't see and no one else sees either, right? It's all this, it's like my unconscious, it's my hidden potential, lots of cool stuff there to maybe explore. And there's things about me that I don't see, but what, Ethan?
That other people can see.
Right. It's the impact that I have on others that I'm not aware of. And it's both those 2 last categories, right? The things that are unknown to me that are growth opportunities, right? As I begin to become more aware of what's going on inside of me, the way I show up, it's all about self-awareness. And there's one of our principles, probably one of our deepest principles, to be an effective manager, and I guess I should say to be a effective, happy human also,
Yep.
is we're growing in self-awareness. And I'll just throw out probably a pretty deep question for you and for us, Ethan, is why is that important? Why does it matter as a manager that I'm actually developing more self-awareness?
Yeah. That is a deep question. We could
Yeah,
probably riff on that for hours, but we won't.
we won't.
So let me maybe answer that question by way of an example. So, I'm a manager, and say I'm driving to work in the morning, and actually even before I leave work, my kids are having a really hard morning. They're crying, they're whatever, they're sick. I barely got out of the door on time. I'm driving to work. Traffic's really bad. I'm starting to run late. Somebody's tailgating me, for God's sake, and it's just driving me nuts. And I finally get in to work, and then right away somebody's at the door to greet me with a fairly urgent issue I have to take care of. I handle that. And so now then I go into a meeting with my team. If I don't have a lot of self-awareness into myself, I might show up to that meeting, and given what I know about myself right now, Ethan, I could come off as fairly upset. I'm looking maybe even angry because I'm frustrated. I'm stressed, and this starts to wear on the people. Like, other people are seeing this frustration in me, and it brings the mood down in the room. It might even kind of bring the level of psychological safety down in the room.
Right.
And then imagine this: you're in that meeting. You're one of my employees, and you just got that morning. You just got off the phone and got some really kind of sad news about a family member. And so you're bringing already some baggage into this meeting, and I'm bringing some baggage into this meeting. Okay. So it's a long way of saying, if I have some self awareness to myself, if I know that, for example, when I'm frustrated or stressed, I can show up a little
Mhm,
angry, well, I can now take some steps prior to
mhm,
stepping into that meeting to ensure that I'm showing up in a way that is not going to affect my team,
mhm,
for example. Right? And for me, that might just be going into the bathroom for a moment, looking in the mirror, and taking a few deep breaths, and
mhm,
reminding myself, "You got this."
mhm,
So that's, again, a really long way of saying that,
mhm.
but I actually think self awareness, like, is the most important skill for a leader. Right?
I would concur. That's really well put, and your example's fantastic. Real quickly, here's another example of that. Let's say that I am a person who has. I'll just use this kind of weird word. Some woundedness around. I really have this need to be liked, right? Maybe I have some deficits in my sense of self, so I've gone through life needing to be liked, and if I'm not aware of that, if that's not something I'm observing and maybe managing, if it's just in the background and it's completely beneath my awareness, it's going to be acted upon at work, right? And I'm not going to know what's happening, but I'm going to be not making decisions that don't make people, I'm going to be always trying to make people happy, maybe. So I won't be making wise decisions, or I'll be um, maybe not giving corrective feedback when I should, and not holding people account, all sorts of things that might be happening. And I don't even know why I'm behaving these ways, but I'm negatively impacting the workplace because I don't know, right, what's going on inside. And so again, like you said, it's the most important skill. If I can be aware of that dynamic inside of me, that doesn't magically fix it, but I actually now get to be intentional and make some different decisions.
Yeah, yeah. The awareness at least gives you the opportunity to make some adjustments,
Right.
right? And
Right.
it's the starting point for making adjustments, of
Right.
course.
Right.
And it is one of the core components of emotional IQ. So
Right.
one way that people have thought about emotional IQ is there's four different components. One being self-awareness, the second being self-management,
Hmm.
the third being social awareness, the fourth being relationship management. So of course we're talking about the self-awareness, which is the
Hmm.
precursor to the self-management.
Right.
And we talk about adaptive skills in a lot of our workshops as well, which is often what we're talking about is self-management. I gain awareness first,
Hmm.
and now I can practice some specific skills to manage myself depending on where I'm at
Right.
mentally, emotionally,
Right.
so on and so
Right.
forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And so, we've talked about both sort of long-term and immediate self-awareness, right? The long-term self-awareness might be more in the category of I have this general tendency to, need control or whatever it is, and I become aware of that and I begin working on that. And but we also talk about in the moment, discovering what's happening for me right now. And you've got a couple tools on that. Like why don't you share what are some ways that you, Ethan, become that you're able to become more aware of what's happening for you in the moment, and then move from there to maybe some self-management?
Yeah, good. So going from self-awareness to self-management. So go back to that example I gave.
Okay.
Gave. Crazy morning. I'm about to go and do the meeting after all this stuff happened to me. A framework that you can use here is just something simple, and it's called the line. And it's just a way of, I guess for me, even just visualizing, or just a go-to tool to use um before I step into a situation that I might do something I regret, for example. Now this tool, the line, it's not original. I didn't come up with it or anything. I actually found it in this book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. Really excellent book here. But it's simple. It is checking in with myself. Am I below the line right now, or am I above the line? Now, if I am below the line, this is characterized by I'm kind of closed off, or I'm in a state of feeling defensive, or because of my emotional state, my primary commitment to going into this meeting is to be right. Right? Now, above the line, it's kind of the opposite. It's I'm open, I'm curious, I'm primarily committed to learning, just to give you an example. So it's nothing groundbreaking. It's not some, earth shattering model to give you here, but I use it as just like, where am I at right now? Am I above the line or below the line? Is my amygdala firing right now, or am I calm? There's nothing wrong with being below the line. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. What can lead you to trouble is being below the line and not having enough awareness to recognize you're below the line, and then going into a meeting or a hard conversation, or maybe you're having a one-on-one with someone where you have to work through some conflict. Not knowing is where you end up doing things that could potentially create some damage. And if you know you're below the line, then again, maybe we can talk about some strategies to get yourself into a place where that doesn't show up, or you can start to put yourself above the line. So I'll stop there. I'm droning on a bit, but
No, you're saying some really great stuff there. That last thing you said, I want us to take a minute on that. It is most important that we recognize where we're at, and actually, I don't know what the word for this. Yeah, accept it. welcome it even. Like the way you said that was so important. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, just noticing it and then not beating yourself up for it is key, right? This is where I'm at. If we
Yeah.
jump too quickly, I think I have to fix it, right?
Right.
Then I think we get in trouble. So taking that moment to be able to acknowledge, I'm a human being and this is where I'm at, and there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. I think that's really, really key before we move into then how do what do we do about it?
Yeah. 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 And I actually think, and I think this is something that they said in this book that I referred to, is that being below the line is actually our normal, almost default state,
Hmm.
and that's okay. Right? It's when our amygdala has been tripped and there's a perceived or imagined threat, right? Not a physical threat, but a threat to our identity, to our ego. I actually think a lot of us are walking around slightly below the line in a sense, especially when we're in a place like the workplace and the stakes are high. So again, I want to normalize it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's about knowing. It's about
Yes.
knowing and make some choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the sense that I'm not supposed to be there keeps us from noticing that we're there, right?
Yeah.
We move into denial and we try to pretend we're not there, and then we can't really adjust. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really well put.
So let me ask you: have you ever been below the line going into an interaction or a meeting or something like that?
No,
Conversation? Never. Yeah.
I've never been below the line in my
Well,
entire life. I
you're
always
enlightened.
live. No, I live like 2 or 3 levels above the line at all times.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
You're
compare
also
yourself. Don't
super
compare yourself.
self-aware. Yeah.
No, I'm the most self-aware of anyone I've ever met, and so
Okay.
I know that's probably gonna be intimidating for you to hear that
Yeah, it
or
is
the other
intimidating.
company.
Well, let me put this to you then. Why don't you imagine you're somebody that is below the line going into a meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's happened a lot. I've gone into trainings that I'm leading
Hmm.
below the line, at times noticing it and aware, and at times not, and it's 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 made a difference right there.
Okay. And so, say you're using this tool, this framework, above the line, below the line, and you pause, take a moment in your car, recognizing that you're below the line. When you have been there, what are some things that you can
Mm,
then do to not let that show up to a group you're here to serve, in a negative way?
mm.
Like, so how do we go from the self-awareness, which is I'm below the line, to now self-management?
I like the way you frame that. That's really good. I think my first attempts usually are about let's see if I can get myself above the line. But there's a point there where that can not succeed,
You're right.
and then I forget to self-manage. So I think it's real important that we give this let's raise ourselves, you know, let's give it some time, but let's not make that the only part of the journey, which I think is what you're getting at. But yeah, I'd start with what can I do to kind of refocus or kind of readjust. Maybe it's for me, sometimes it's working on some self compassion. It's usually around awareness and accepting that I'm feeling that way, and like you said, being okay with that and giving myself grace and permission to feel that
Yeah.
way. Sometimes that alone can raise me up.
And what does
Sometimes it's telling me
self-compassion look like and sound like to you, like in your mind personally?
in that case, it would be maybe I'm below the line because maybe I'm feeling like I have the imposter syndrome today. Maybe I'm not feeling competent. Maybe I'm feeling afraid of something. So self compassion would be some way of meeting myself where I'm at
Mm.
and giving myself what I need, right? Telling myself the truth about myself, reminding myself about some great things about who I am, right? So it'd be maybe some of those sorts of exercises to help me kind of see what I call the truth about
Yeah.
who I am, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be maybe some of those sorts of things. Maybe it's about assuring myself that things are going to be okay. Maybe getting out of that weird zone I can get in where, oh my gosh, things aren't going to go well, and the worst case scenario is going to happen, and talking myself down a little bit. So I think some of those first things I might do is around trying to change where I'm at first. And then how about you? I mean, on that piece there, what do you do to kind of adjust?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm recognizing I'm below the line. I mean, I think a simple, easy, super accessible tool is just what you already have right here, which is your breath.
Mm.
Right? And there's actually something called the physiological exhale, and it it will actually take you from a state of anatomical arousal, right, being almost in your amygdala, to
Mhm.
some deep breaths that can put you back into more of the rest and digest state, which is
Mhm.
more calm, focused, and relaxed. And so all it is just taking a deep inhale through your nose, and then one more inhale to sneak some more air in. So it's, and then a slow exhale through your mouth. So it's just,
I
so
feel
again,
that.
you're kind of
Yeah.
sneaking in a little more air there. You're letting it out, and just doing 3 or 4 of that. I mean, when they've actually wired people up to look at their brains and what's going on with them, it is bringing people from arousal to calm.
Mm,
So
nice.
super accessible tool. In fact, if you see a child crying or something, they'll do that naturally. They'll be crying.
Mm.
They'll take that
Right.
double inhale and then
Right.
exhale, because your
Right.
body knows it's trying to calm itself down. So we can actually kind of hack our biology in a way.
I
So
love that.
I mean, that's a physiological tool to use.
Great.
Now, as far as more of a mental tool or mindset tool to use, I like just some self-compassion.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's okay that I'm here right now. It doesn't mean I'm bad or something's
Mhm.
wrong or I've messed up.
Mhm.
It's this is a normal place for people to be, especially given what happened to me today, or
Mhm.
yada yada. um but then I guess I come back to this point. This goes to self-management, which is, okay, maybe I'm not going to come in above the line totally,
Right.
but what are some skills that I know I have that I can practice to make sure this doesn't, again, negatively affect those around me?
That's
So,
really
for
good.
example, if I know that my face can look a little bit tense and even
Mhm.
angry if I'm in
Mhm.
this state, I
Mhm.
just remember to kind of have just walk in with a little bit of a smile on,
Mhm.
right? Just a little bit of a smile. It might feel forced, but that can actually change your mood as well by just
Yep.
putting a little bit of a smile on.
Yep.
But it's also just knowing, hey, I'm in this kind of aroused state, and if somebody starts like giving me feedback in the meeting, if I'm not careful, I might just show up with defensiveness. It's just remembering, okay, what does it look like to be non-defensive, and
Mhm.
reminding myself of those, just that adaptive skill of
Mhm.
showing up
Mhm.
non-defensively. All right, if somebody, it's almost like imagining what could happen if somebody does give me some tough feedback in this meeting. I'm just going to remember to pause, breathe, and just listen. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
going to hold back my initial reaction and
Mhm.
listen. So it's things like that, and without getting into all the adaptive skills, but I think we all have some of those skills that we can remember. I need to practice these in this moment right here.
Yeah, and that's so important, and it reminds me of this little soapbox I get on sometimes around authenticity. It's that authenticity is something we value. Obviously, in our company, we teach authenticity. It's an important um, way of being for managers, and it can be overdone and it can be overemphasized. It's like I don't actually want 100% authenticity. In fact, if I was
Right?
authentic all the time, I'd have no friends. I wouldn't be married, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's an
You wouldn't
adult
have a
social skill.
job. I mean,
I wouldn't have
let's
a
be
job.
honest.
It's an adult social skill called self-control. It's about putting on the behavior, like you're talking about a smile or a certain reaction or response, putting it on, even if it doesn't feel like what I want to put on right now. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. In fact, there's everything right with that. That's not about phoniness.
Yeah.
That's about bringing to the moment what is needed in the moment.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Right? I think, like you're saying, I think authenticity can be misunderstood or
Mhm.
thrown around as this end all be all that we all should live to, but it is misunderstood. Right?
Mhm.
If you are authentic in this situation where you're below the line, that's going to negatively affect people, which is going to come back to negatively affect you. I would actually look at that situation and say, what is more authentic to me in this situation? I just show up with my frustration and anger to somebody, or I'm somebody that's kind of living up to my value of showing up with
Mm,
some stability and calmness.
I like that.
And in fact, that's how I like to look at authenticity. Again, this isn't my original thought. Very few of my thoughts are, but it's, authenticity is where you're behaviors are aligning with your values.
Mhm.
Right. And so, yeah, one of my values is I want to create psychological safety in my meetings. I mean, that's, a portion of a value.
Right.
All right. So, what am I going to do in this situation to make that happen as opposed to just showing up exactly how I feel right now?
Yes, that's good. Now there's another version of authenticity. If I wasn't leading a meeting, and if I, there's certain contexts that you're describing here. If I was just hanging out with you and we
Hmm.
were having a cup of coffee, a version of authenticity might be just telling you how I'm doing, right? This is
Right.
actually where I'm at. So there's another version of that, which is super, that's a really good tool to have too, right? That
Yeah.
ability to, in the right moment, in the right context, to be able to be authentic and share what's happening.
Good.
But I'm not going to walk into a training in front of 30 people and say, I'm having a crappy day, everybody, and I'm just kind of ticked off and don't make me mad today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Although even to take that, so maybe not in a training like you're doing with a client, but if you're walking into a meeting, say you have a team of 4 or 5 people,
And there's some trust.
and there's some trust on that team,
Absolutely.
or actually even if you're trying to build some trust in that team, it can go a long ways of having some authenticity there. And by that I mean, hey folks, I just got to say I had a really tough morning.
Right.
I don't want to get into it right now if that's okay. I had a tough morning and I just took a few deep breaths in the bathroom to just be ready for this meeting. But I just want you to know that's it's a little bit of my way right now, and I'm going to do my best not to let that kind of affect how I show up in this meeting. But I want to make you aware of that in case it is starting to show up, and that can build a lot of trust, and it also can
Mhm.
help you calm down a little bit knowing that that's out there. Um,
Yep. And it also models really great humility and authenticity. Yeah.
that's right. In
You
fact,
need a oh sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, in fact, I wanna take this the line tool to a different level here real quick, which is just that yes, this could be a self-awareness tool to use privately by yourself. We've also used it, at Nash Consulting, with ourselves internally as just a check-in as a group before a meeting or a conversation. Or we've done that one-on-one before a conversation, which is literally draw a line on the whiteboard and just ask people, hey, just where are you at right now starting today? We have a full day in front of us of, strategizing and doing some work together. Where are you at? And just letting everybody share a little bit about where they're at, helps to create this social perceptiveness in that room that can really benefit the rest of the day. And like you said, build a level of trust, authenticity, even psychological safety. So I like to use it individually as well as with a group, given the right, circumstances.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
great. That's exactly what I was going to refer to. Is
Okay.
you lead, for example, you lead our admin team meetings, and you often have asked us to, you've invited us basically to share where we're at, and you've led several times in that, and
Right.
it's a really great way to build trust. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And it again coming back to those 4 components of emotional intelligence I talked about, right? We've talked about self-awareness here, obviously. We've talked about self-management. And right here, we're talking about social awareness in a sense as well. Social awareness isn't always I am guessing what's going on with you and I have that awareness. Sometimes social awareness is just saying, asking,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
having them give you some data on how people are doing
Hmm.
right now in this moment. And then with that information, with that data, you can start to manage that relationship a little bit better. Okay, Susan had it sounds like she's had a tough morning. She's in a tough place today. When she maybe is a little defensive with a question I ask, I can have a little bit more grace and understanding for that
Yeah, that's good.
as opposed to thinking, well,
What's wrong with her? Yeah,
yeah, what's wrong with her? So
that's
this can go a long ways. It's simple, but I like it. I think
I
it's a cool tool.
I
Yeah.
thought of back to your question a minute ago. Another way that I might manage the actual way I show up, walk into a meeting, training. Um, you kind of referred to this. I might change my focus. Like that's another thing I do sometimes to manage. It doesn't necessarily bring me up, but it sometimes does. But it actually does manage the way I show up. Is change what I'm focusing on. So I might come in and say
Hmm.
to myself, um, I really am here for these people today. I really want to meet their needs.
Hmm.
I might want to say, I'm going to really, you did mention this, I want to listen really well today. That's going to be
Mhm.
one of my goals in this meeting. Or I really want these people to experience some empowerment and some autonomy today. How can so just kind of changing what I'm focused on will sometimes do both of those things. It'll change the way I show up, but it'll also change where I'm at.
That's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
You too. Good stuff.
This was fun.
Yeah, good topic.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add here before we wrap up?
How are you doing right now? Where are you at in your, line?
Above the line or below the line?
Yeah.
I'm feeling above the line today. I'm feeling, woke up with some optimism about life in the world despite tough things going on. And I don't always wake up that way. And so when I do, I notice, and I'm feeling good and above the line. How about you?
Before I answer a question, do you allow people? I know it sounds like you're bossy about this, but do you allow people to be on the line? Is that a thing, or is that a cop out?
You know what? I will make an exception here if you want to be on the line, but no,
I'm just wondering. Is that
I don't have a lot of rules or parameters around this. If somebody wants to say I'm right on the line, let them be right on the line.
Okay.
It's where they're at. Yeah. I've seen you do a scale. Are you like -4 below the line, or are you -1 below the line? I kind of like that as well, as just kind of being like, I'm a little bit below the line, but not like way down there. That can be helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes give people two spots above the line and 2 spots below, even. So, but I would say I'm just barely above today. So and it's interesting. You said earlier in this conversation, most of us, or maybe most of us, kind of sort of live just below the line, because as humans, right, we are plagued with anxiety, with concerns, with all sorts of things. And so I would say when I am above the line, it's kind of special. It feels good. And just like you, when I wake up there, that's gold. That's golden. And I did wake up there today. So.
Good to hear. Yeah, good to hear. Well, thank you. Thanks for having this conversation with me, Dad, Mike.
You're welcome, son.
Yeah, good. Thanks, everybody. Hey, just real quick, I encourage you to sign up for our Managing with Mind and Heart newsletter. It goes out once a month-ish, and they are short-ish. Just blog posts, articles we put together, mostly centered around, tools, strategies, tactics to help you lead better, manage others, manage yourself, build morale, build engagement. So encourage you to sign up for that. Go to our website. You'll find a place to sign up for that newsletter, or you can text the word leading to the number 66866. See you next time, folks.
Thanks, everybody.